I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another office hours live stream. As I say, it's sort of a makeup stream, and I was waiting. It's like, who's going to be the first guy to go, hey, you're going to teach us how to do makeup? And it was you, Andre. I saw you in the chat. But no, the reason I'm calling it a makeup stream is because, I missed Saturday when I usually do it. So I wanted to have some sort of content. I don't know how long ago. I got a couple things to talk about. Nathaniel Lozball brought up a topic too that he had mentioned in the book study. And if there are questions or whatever, we'll see how it goes. But a few things to say anyway. First of all, I need to start remembering doing this. You guys remember Stephen Cruz? Those of you who've been with me for a long time will remember Stephen Cruz. Used to be really consistently here with us all the time. He got busy with work, I think maybe school, but he's the one who did the music and did that whole compilation for my opening sequence like that. He would occasionally do that with some of the lectures and whatnot that I would give on stream. He would piece them together, and he was a musician, a really great musician, and he would do these really cool little music things and stuff and send them to me, and then I would put images to it. In fact, Big Al sent me the other day. He used to take like things we said out of context, and he did a couple with Big Al, and then I of course put images to it and stuff. They were pretty funny. But that's who that came from, and how that opening sequence came about. So just a thank you to Stephen Cruz out there, wherever you are, sir. Welcome to the chat here. See, Nathaniel's Lozball was first. Good to see you there. And Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0 had a lot to say talking about Castlevania. I'm not a Castlevania person. I don't know anything about it. The only thing I know about Castlevania will piss off people who like Castlevania. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it anyway. I know the games are there. I know they've got a huge following. I have nothing against the games. I just never got into them. And I know the Netflix series ruined it, which is like, oh, it's Netflix, But my only connection to Castlevania is Simon Belmont and Captain N, the Game Master. And I love that character. I love Captain N, the Game Master. But everybody who's like a real Castlevania aficionado go, that's not Simon Belmont. That's a horrible version of the character or whatever. Like, whatever. That's all I know. That's all that's my only connection to it. But yeah, I don't doubt that Netflix ruined it. Yeah, of course, it's Netflix, They're not going to do a good adaptation of anything. Not since, like Daredevil, welcome to Undead or Ironic Gamer. Sorry, there's no spaces between the words, and my brain is too tired to really parse all that out. But good to see you there. Talking about the One Piece live action. Yeah, I've heard that. And again, like who is so simple-minded to think, well, I'm going to give this a chance. It might be good. I mean, really, in today's climate, Netflix, of all people, with their track record. Samuel Proctor, good to see you. Listening while door dashing. Hey, door dashing. I've thought about doing that at different times to make a little extra money, like on certain seasons, like during the summer when cash flow gets a little lower or whatever. But hope it's what's the word I'm looking for? Hope you make a lot of money. that's an unsmart way to say it. Divinital Kayan, welcome to you. Great to see you. My dear sound engraver, made it up from the nap. Good to have you here. Mr. D-Man, Final Fantasy fan, Private Eye, 14 Biz. So many people here. Stress levels. Good to see everyone. So, I'll mention Nathaniel's Lozball. He was bringing up, you just in the chat last Thursday night's book study about the apparently, and I don't know anything about this. The reason I don't know anything about this Nathaniel's Lozball isn't because I think it's a stupid topic or whatever. Power Rangers has just never been one of my fandoms. I never got into it as a kid. I was a little too old for it too. And I, heck, I didn't even get into anime since until the last 5 years or so, and I'm 44. So, I didn't grow up with any of this stuff, and I didn't have sort of a sensibility for the Japanese aesthetic, or whatever. But I know there's a whole subculture that Sentai, stuff, and Sound Engraver used to love Power Rangers. She was telling me when she was a kid, she used to just love it. So apparently they're bringing it back somehow. Is it a series that they're doing? The last thing I know they did was the movie, which I didn't bother seeing either. Al said it was sort of okay. I don't know if the movie was any good. I like the concept of it. I mean, it's a timeless concept, right? A group of teenagers who somehow are gifted powers, and they, use it to save the world and whatnot. I mean, that's a timeless concept. That's been done over and over again, and it not to ad nauseum, because you can't. It's just a really good timeless, as I said. And I guess they each have sort of the different, slightly different abilities or nature to their abilities, but it. So they're doing a series now, and the creator, Nathaniel was saying, the creator came out and just flat out said he's never really been a fan of this. But he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and he's going to change it around to where it's actually, going to really make sense now. Or I'm paraphrasing with a lot of this kind of garbage take that I hear from a lot of these creators who get onto a topic or get onto a project rather, and they don't even have any background to the character, and they come in thinking they know better. They know better. I did a whole video about the woman who wrote the Black Widow movie. If you guys remember in the culture, and this was pre, Marvel that we know now, how it just went down the drain big time. It was after Endgame, so we knew that it sucked, right? We knew Captain Marvel. We knew the writing was on the wall. That's where they wanted to take Marvel now. But they threw that little bone out saying, we're finally going to give you a Black Widow movie. And we had been wanting a Black Widow movie forever, remember? And they did that. And I think the trailer even came out. And people everywhere, I mean, that trailer kind of looked pretty good. I mean, we can't be negative about everything. I mean, hey, I'm going to go see it and blah, blah, blah. And I was just calling it out from the beginning. Stop taking the bone they threw you. This is the new Marvel now. This is what they are. And I had and this does relate to the Power Rangers here, because it's something similar to what apparently the creator of the Power Rangers is saying, or the creator behind this new series or whatever. The woman who wrote the screenplay for Black Widow, I did a whole video on it. Look, this interview that she had done, and she comes out and says in the interview, yeah, no, I didn't, grow up on comics. I'm not really a fan of that kind of stuff. But I mean, when an opportunity like this is given you, you have to take it, because you can really give this feminist message. I mean, she flat out said in black and white that she wasn't a fan of the character, but she took this opportunity to preach feminism. I mean, she just flat out said it, maybe not quite so many words, but that's what she said. And how many idiots still, well, I'm going to go give it a chance. I mean, this is how Hollywood creates content or brings back or remakes or whatever. So anybody getting excited about them bringing back something, that was great before is just touched in the head at this point. I mean, how are you even reasoning that this might be good? One Piece, of course it was going to be garbage. Of course. This is Hollywood right now. This is current Hollywood. Of course they're going to get somebody doing Power Rangers who doesn't give a crap about Power Rangers and wants to remake it into something they prefer. Somebody put in the chat there, Mr. D-Man, Kevin Smith, the He-Man garbage. He doesn't give a crap about He-Man. He never did. It wasn't one of his characters that he even remotely cared about. So he just gets on the project and throws a bunch of crap at the wall and gets other people coming in and changing things around. And then he clutches his pearls when people dare not like it. He's going to come up later in a topic too. That man is just a dumpster fire of a creative mind. But it's no one cares about the content anymore. Hollywood is just desperate. They still have this delusion that it's safer to remake time-tested franchises because they've already got a built-in fan base. These are just little keywords that executives just get all, kind of squiggly for and love that kind of thing because it's less of a financial risk if there's already a built-in fan base, And in fact, no, you're just going to tick people off more. And, but who knows with the numbers, people still go see this crap. People still think this time for sure, they'll get it right. It's, so I have no patience for anybody who goes and gives this garbage a chance. This is the Hollywood today. It's not like maybe this one will be good. No, this is what everything they're going to do right now is crap. As I've said, and if something slips through that actually has any kind of merit, you need to just let it prove itself first. You don't need to be there opening night, give it a while. And then if you really hear about it from trusted sources that it's worth a chance or whatever, then go give it a chance. But Nathaniel says, I'm not surprised in the slightest. It's no different from the conquering nation that despises their enemy's culture and mythology and seeks to supplant it with their own as a substitute. That's a good analogy. That is a good analogy. They're doing this with Star Wars right now too. And Star Wars is such a funny thing because the writing is on the wall. Audiences are just not excited about Ahsoka. They're just not. I don't care how excited you particularly are about Ahsoka. The numbers don't lie. People are walking away from Disney Star Wars left and right. And yet the people who are still wanting to pretend that it's great, it's fine, everything's good here, they're fixing it, those people are desperate to push this narrative that Ahsoka's finally fixing it. Yeah, if with Ahsoka, Filoni's giving us what the Disney sequel trilogy should have been, and they got all this nonsense. I just saw it was a screencast article that came out that popped up in the news feed for me today, saying some garbage like that. It's just the numbers aren't there. People are tired of this nonsense. There's a very passionate little Filoni, base who thinks that, as I said in previous videos, Clone Wars was it. That was the thing, and that's what's going to save, Star Wars going forward. And so that's why Filoni's just throwing out all of his little member berries from that series, into his garbage stuff that he's doing now. He's rewriting so much of the great EU. He's taking all these kind of great ideas from the EU and bastardizing them, not doing them half the credit they should be done. And he's remaking it all around his waifu, Ahsoka. She's got to be the center of Star Wars from now on. That's what he's doing. It's obvious. It's not even up for debate. Don't even tell me he's not doing it. That's just objective truth at this point. And people are walking away from it left and right. But you still have this, like I said, this little group who's so passionate about pushing this narrative. And you have news sources too. So whether it's like Screencast or different, geek news sites or whatever, or channels on YouTube, I think people don't realize that they are going to ultimately be held accountable for what they endorse. Now they're not held to as much account as they should be because of this recklessly consuming culture that we have right now. But if you say, yeah, I like that, that's good, and you put your name on something, then you've linked your reputation to that. And if it's crap, even if you were just doing your buddy a favor and saying something good about it, if it's crap, then you've linked your reputation to that. You've linked your taste to that. That's what you've told people. If I tell you that Last Jedi, guys, man, that was a great movie. You guys really ought to go see that. If I actually, tell you that, then the next movie that I tell you, hey, this other movie over here is really good too, you should go see that. Well, you'll know that second movie is most likely garbage because somehow I'm demented enough to think Last Jedi was a good movie. That's how that works. And people don't see that. they don't think through the harm they may be doing to their reputation. And ultimately you get these ridiculous shills. Kevin Smith, I said he'd come up again. Kevin Smith, I don't think you could think of a bigger absolute shill in the entertainment industry than Kevin Smith. Has Kevin Smith ever come out, at least in the last 10 years or so, and just criticized something, said, hey, that's not right, that's not the right take, and then not retracted it like the second they said it or whatever? Kevin Smith is nothing but that's great, that's great. Every new thing that happens in geekdom, he's celebrating it. He has no standards. So if he says something's good, you can just let that go in one ear and right out the other, because he had zero credibility. He's not a discerning person with any kind of standards, or somebody that should be listened to in any way as a gauge of taste or quality when it comes to something, because he has proven again and again that he will just celebrate everything. What do you say, that J.J. Abrams, he's doing the Lord's work, guys, with Rise of Skywalker. It's so amazing. And the Justice League movie is so wonderful. And he doesn't know when to quit, right? So you somebody like that, regardless what you think of his artistic output, his credibility as any kind of judge of a source is completely shot. Stephen King has gotten that way, quite frankly, in my opinion. Stephen King, the last real straw that broke the camel's back was when he came out and endorsed the Flash movie before it came out. And you can just see what's going on behind the scenes. The director for the Flash movie was the same director that did the garbage remake of It from Stephen King. And Stephen King was trying to pretend that remake of It, it's wonderful, it's what the book should have been, it's great. It was horrible. They made ridiculous changes for no reason whatsoever. It didn't help the story in any way. It was stupid. The first part one was pretty stupid, but it still had some good stuff in it because it was the original story, which is so great. Part two just went off the rails, ridiculous. And he had, this is good because it was for him. Hey, they're giving him money. They're putting money in his pocket. So of course he's going to put his name, stamp it on there for the endorsement, Then, so the director, right? Everyone knew the Flash movie was going to fail, but they were still trying every little machination they could behind the scenes to get people into this. And the director of the Flash movie, who had done his It movie, came and asked him to send out an endorsement. That's what happened. And then, of course, sure, he did. He put out a tweet. And that's what I saw talking about, I'm not much on these crazy superhero movies, but I saw that Flash movie, out of a whim. And darn it, if that one wasn't pretty good, I think you guys should go check that out. Like, who's stupid enough to fall for that, Stephen King? And it really insults me, too. It insults me as somebody who's enjoyed your work and would be considered a fan, that's how little you would think of my intelligence, Don't endorse things that are crap. I've lost respect for so many YouTube channels. And we talked about this before. They become shills. YouTube started out as a forum for just the average person to throw up a webcam and get their opinion out, or content if they're creative or whatever. And you see so many nerd channels or geek channels coming out, and that's how they start, right? They start by giving their opinions. They start by doing this, but then they get a following. Then it builds. Then they start seeing some of that sweet revenue money coming in from the ads. And then they realize, I got to keep this going because now I'm dependent on that ad revenue. I kind of like not working my day job and doing more of this YouTube stuff. So then they just start subjugating their opinions, subjugating their content to whatever the algorithm tells them to do. They won't speak badly about something that it's the cultural moment right now is to say good things about the Joker guy. So don't worry. I mean, now you can crap on the Joker, but for a while there, it was like, you were burned in effigy if you said anything about the Joker. So all of the usual talking head geek channels, it's like, this one movie is really good, and they lose their credibility. I'm not very tech savvy. Look at the lighting in here. I'm not even sitting in the dead center of the screen. I'm just not a very tech savvy person, but I could invest a little time and resources into getting this really slick, and making sure that I had a really sweet, intro roll and this and that, and some, sleek website and all this stuff. I could do that. But one of the reasons why I don't is because I don't want to be that kind of channel. I want to be abundantly clear that I'm just a real guy giving my opinion here. Now I've got my own expertises. I am a professor and I speak from those expertises, but I'm not out here. Yeah, I get some ad revenue, but I'm certainly not enough to live on. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't, depending on how much work I put in my channel. And it's nice when you get it, but whatever. It's never gonna make me lose my integrity by putting up this content or that content. And you see that happen to YouTubers all the time. More professional, bigger they get, then they just start chasing those algorithms, and in anything they say, you can just let go in one ear, not the other. It's worth nothing. People have reputations, and things happen to bruise it or whatever, but the basic integrity. People are always going to. I don't know. I mean, I can't conceive of somebody respecting Kevin Smith's opinion on anything. I can't see somebody respecting some of these YouTube channels' opinions unless they're one of their devoted followers who have kind of, signed up their identity into this and whatnot. It's just have some integrity. What's so wrong with that? If you want to make money on YouTube or social media, then do it by putting out your own creative content, whether you're, putting out comedic videos or something, or using your channel to sell your books, your movies, whatever. But this idea that I'm selling you my opinion as a commentator, well, that's like, we've seen that in politics forever, but now that's becoming a thing in the geek world too. And if you're really charismatic, you can pull the wool over people's eyes. There's no shortage of people out there just wanting to feel like they belong to a community, just wanting to feel like they belong. And, you saw them. Oh, you said their name because you sent them a super chat. Oh, they're your people, and stuff like that. And that's how these people get the money. And they're professional commentators, which is ridiculous. If you're making money off of your commentary, then your commentary is sullied, because that's your source of income now. And you're going to adjust your commentary to what makes you money. That's just how that works. You can't not see that. I could talk about that. It's really infuriating. Dark Side Apoc says, I agree. All these geek channels will say everything is good or keep talking about it until people are curious. Yeah. It's true. They don't want to step away, because then that means they don't get the attention anymore. Studio Super, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Said, if I ever have a kid, I'm basically going to give him my childhood simulation. Basically going to make sure he grows up on things I grew up on and more. There's plenty of stuff to grow up on. And, part of that too, that's a good point. Yeah, I appreciate that. And there's part of that too is just the difference in technology. No one knows how to sit with a story anymore. I've talked about that before, but part of it is just, okay, you liked this one thing. Can you sit down and take a moment to enjoy that one thing? Or is it just, is it part of a cultural kitsch? Oh yeah, I like Nirvana. Let me get that T-shirt. Okay. Oh yeah, let me jump on over one thing. No other thing. That's what that's what children do today. That's what young people do today. Gen Zers and whatnot. This is their culture. They don't have, I'm speaking in general. Of course, you can find exceptions, but they don't have the attention span to just sit and focus on something. It's not there. And to enjoy, even people who have like ADHD, even they at one time or another could be like hyper focused into something that they really love. They might ditch it after that and jump to something else, but there was something, to be said for just really pursuing your interest, even in a context like that. We just don't have that anymore. It's what's the latest update video? What's the next thing? What's the next this or that? Darkseid said, this one channel tried to say Jonathan Hickman was good for X-Men and he destroyed them. Now Beast is evil and Apocalypse is a hero. That does sound pretty ridiculous. I don't know why anybody would still be reading current comics. Like, if you're still reading current comics from like Marvel or DC, I don't mean like, an indie comic or some creator that you follow or something like that. But like, if you're still reading Marvel or DC comics, what is your damage? The writing's been on the wall forever. It cracked me up. I saw a video. I didn't see a video. I saw an article. I think it was a video interview that Dan DiDio had done. and he's like speaking on, the wokeness in comics or whatever. Like, don't you even try, you big hypocrite. Don't you even try to come in here and be able to speak like you weren't a part of that. You ran DC into the ground. You sucked everything good out of DC, and you deserved firing 10 years before you were fired, at least, if not 20. You deserve to be out of there. Don't come in now and try and act like, oh, I've got the salve that heals things. And you know nothing about this. Get out of here, Baldy. Santa Graver says YouTube is a great platform to market art, and the extra change is nice, but it's not a good career plan. It's not if you have any integrity. If you want to be taken seriously for your opinions, it's not. Political, and you have to really be super type A, to be a professional commentator. Think about your favorite political commentators. On either side of the aisle, the political aisle. I mean, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever. Your favorite political commentators tend to be, and at the worst, the worst scenario, they tend to be very brusque and very bully, can be straight up bullies. But even, in a milder scenario, this is their opinion, it's right, and screw the world who doesn't believe I'm right. You have to have some element of that to make money, or to really, that's the front you have to put off anyway. Now, behind the scenes, you're going to listen to your sponsors. You're going to follow the sponsors. You're going to, and they'll say they don't. No, not me. I don't sponsor anybody unless I've, tried this, and that. You're going to look at the currents, because that's where your bread and butter comes from. You won't. My channel has. I could be so much bigger right now than I am on my channel. I could very easily be, one of the talking heads you're thinking of when I talk about these people. Very easily. I was on the way, but I refused to jump on bandwagons. No, straight up, I'm going to tell you why Joker sucked. I'm going to tell you why Filoni's full of crap. I'm going to tell you all these things, and people are like, oh, I can't believe that. Unsubscribe, and I'll see my subscriber count go up and then go down, and then one step forward, two steps back. Hey, I don't care. If I'm talking to 5 people, I'm going to have my integrity, and I'm going to be sincere about what these things are. And I'm going to tell you what the truth is about these things, according to my expertise, and people get so mad at others when they do that. Sound Engraver and I were talking the other day about, people will come to her channel and she's talking about some of the science fiction right now with Foundation and whatnot. It's like, how dare you? Like, how dare me what? How dare me make a video on my own channel? You don't have to come here and listen to it. Nobody has to come here and listen to it. But you're mad because other people are coming here. That's what you're mad about. You're mad that I put out opinion in the universe that you disagree with, and you feel helpless to combat that opinion because you're just blind ranting in the comments or whatever. Maybe I've hidden you from the channel. You don't know. So you don't have any ammunition to hit back with that because you don't feel like you have a voice in the world. And that can be a sad thing, but it's not my fault. So anyway, Rogue Disciple says his career is in the toilet now. He's trying to save face. Who are you talking about? I brought up a bunch of different people. I don't know who I was talking about at that point. But I mean, whatever you said there is definitely applicable to a lot of the people I was talking about. Studio Super for $4.99. Thank you. Said these guys that keep consuming remind me of a caged animal. You don't want to be there, but you lose the will to escape. I guess so. I don't, I mean, I've done many, many videos on what makes people just be these reckless consumers. You see them kind of change their story too. Star Wars is a great example because you've seen people say, be absolutely against the Disney sequel trilogy. Everything about that, it needs to go away. It needs to be retconned. We're 100% against that. And then Mandalorian comes out. Well, that one's actually pretty good. Guys, now there's a civil war and we might get this retcon, guys. We might actually have this retcon. Now they're getting to the point where they're saying, I mean, look, the sequel trilogy wasn't terrible. Filoni's just able to connect the tissue in between, and he's going to kind of make it bearable. And he's going to kind of make it, and it's fine. Stay in the continuity, but we're just going to shift it over this way and go in this direction. Rather than turn away, rather than say no to content, they will change all of their priorities. They will sacrifice their integrity on the altar of give me my content, Commander Rex said, how much for your writing course? I don't have a writing course just yet. I am still looking at the, I was really gung-ho about doing that online course on Teachable, I think. Sound Engraver and I were both looking into that. But with the wedding right now, it's just sucked up all my time and energy right now. This the wedding, the house renovations and whatnot. But that is coming. And I thank you for your interest in that. I am definitely going to put those online courses up. Was going to do one on heroic archetypes. Now, I do offer editorial services. If that's what you're interested in, you can drop me an email. But yeah. Dan DiDio started the New 52 stuff. This kind of narrative about now, like, oh, he was the golden years of DC, guys. Remember that? He's back now, and he's saying no to the woke, and oh, this is great. No. Don't even remotely believe that nonsense. He drove DC into the ground. He was embarrassed by the characters. He wanted them to be more like Marvel. New 52 was his little baby project, and it completely took a crap on all of the characters. It wanted to remake all of them in the spirit of Batman, and let's even make Batman darker. That's not the DCU. And he did that, and as I've said, New 52 was really popular at first because it was a huge media event. The first time ever that, action and Detective Comics were set to zero. And it was a big deal. They had a lot of media involvement, and they did bring in some new readers that wanted just nothing but darkness. But after a while, no one gave a crap about DC Comics anymore because he'd ruined all of the charm that was there. He'd sucked the soul out of DC Comics with all of his darkness and let's be more like Marvel nonsense. Then Rebirth happened, when the executives in charge took it away from Dan DiDio and said, no, we need to bring back some goodness to this. And Rebirth was brilliant. And for like 2 years there, it looked like everything was wonderful. It was going in a good direction. Even with Tom King's nonsense, because he hadn't totally devolved the Batman yet. But right about the time Tom King just, took a dump on Batman with the Catwoman Batman wedding thing, the writing was on the wall at that point. And DiDio was able to come back, got more power again, just straight up fired the people writing amazing stories, Dan Jurgens and what's his name, who was writing Rebirth Superman. Those were great, beautiful, heartfelt stories. He just straight up removed them and brought in Bendis. Bendis is coming. And Bendis utterly demolished everything good about the Superman comics. I really don't understand who's reading this garbage anymore. Like, I don't want to hear about it. I'm sorry that you have this fascination with, watching something that I love be murdered and dragged through the mud, but you go do that on your own. Rogue Disciple says, have you been following the upcoming anime Gabriel and the Guardians based on the Bible? I heard about that. I haven't followed it. No, I heard about that. Is it a like a campaign? Is it a independent thing, or is it something that's actually, out there in the networks and stuff? I don't know. I haven't heard about that. Commander Rex says, when is your next update on the Naruto watch through? That's a good point. Yeah, I should do another. Like I said, the last thing I watched was the Pain saga. That's where I'm at now. The Pain saga is wrapped up, and I thought that's a good pin to put in it right now with the wedding stuff. I'll probably get back into it, in November or something like that, watching it again, as well as the My Hero Academia stuff. I like to enjoy it. I like to savor it, but yeah, that's one thing I've never really done. I've never just binge watched something. I don't really agree with the principle of it. Now, I might, if I'm really into a series, I can watch like one episode a night. If the series is such that could watch an episode a night, because I like to, really enjoy it. I like to, really take it in and think about it. And I've never understood people who can just, oh, the Daredevil series dropped. I just watched it. And, just had an all-night session and I watched the whole thing. Like, well, then congratulations. You don't remember half of it. Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, you don't. And you can't have really thought about it or analyzed it or dug into it. Yeah, I did. No, you didn't. That's not how the human brain works. So stop trying to tell me that lie. You just were desperate for content. You OD'd on it, and now you're up for the next thing. That's all you did. Fazocchio Corner said lots of anime and manga is... Oh, just popped out. I think you said terrible. I once read a serialized superhero manga about or manga, sorry, about the superhero sex with little boys. Wow. Yeah, I definitely heartily reject the notion that just because it's anime or manga, it's so much better. You know, the fact is that there's a lot of franchises and stories in anime and manga that is truly so much better than anything we've gotten in Western, media and stuff like that. So that's true. But some people do have this just sort of blind devotion to the style. You know, oh, if it came from Japan, I'm in. You know, and that's silly. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, old comics are great. Dark Side. Old comics are like I don't know why people don't dig into that more. There's so many great runs and arcs that I have not read yet, or things that I might have read when I was a child, or teenage, middle school or whatever, and that I could read it, I can read again now and just really dig into. You know, one of the things I really want to reread now with adult eyes and just revel in the nostalgia of it, but also just the really good construction of it is uh, Tales of the. Oh man, I'm blanking on the title. Tales of the Dark Knight. Is that what it was? The comic run that Denny O'Neil started out when Batman '89 came out, and Batman was just hugely popular, and people couldn't get enough of the comics. They had another comic line to come out that was sort of in that vein, and it Tales of the Dark Knight, or I can't remember which one now. I'm having a real hard getting my brain focused tonight, guys. I've been crazy busy with this wedding planning, and then I worked today and did all this stuff. I just lesson planned for some lessons tomorrow right before I did the stream, but I didn't want to go a week without the content. I wanted to have some content on here. It's less than 2 weeks, guys. I'm gonna be married. That's freaking awesome, but it's also a little nerve wracking thinking about all the things that still have to be done. So I agree for talking and I are talking about that. I mean, we're fine. Things are getting done, but like, oh my gosh, we gotta finish paying for that. Oh, we gotta finish planning that and taking care of that and preparing for that. And every day you get up and, especially if you're like me, you got, your jobs and then, Alyssa and all these other responsibilities. It's very easy for everything to just get sucked up and taken away. But all your free time that you were going to spend to get this project done or whatever. So a little stressful. My brain's a little taxed, but I'm trying to make good words. Divinity Kayan said one needs to remember that Japanese origins culture are different than Christian roots of America and not blindly take it all as good. Yeah, that's the funny thing is, I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I find so what draws me and attracts me so much about good anime and manga is when they take their cue from Western media, but they're doing it justice where Western media isn't doing it justice. So like basic hero's journey stuff, hey, My Hero Academia, that's basic superhero stuff, but they're doing it in a way that you'd never get in Western media today, So when they take their cue from Western media and just do it better, show us up, I did get a super chat. Studio Super said my list at the moment: Fantasy Island, old show, Lone Ranger, both movie and old show. So the Fantasy Island, the old show. Gotcha. Lone Ranger, both the movie and the old show. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons, Terminator 1 and 2, Predator, Home Improvement, Back to the Future, One Piece, Batman 66. Hey man, that's a sweet watch list. I'd watch those with you. That's awesome. What am I watching right now? Reading right now? Oh, I'm still reading. I mentioned this the other day. Peter Straub's Floating Dragon. Really loving this. Oh, hey, Fan Man's here. Good to see you, Fan Man. Popped up in the chat. We had a blast the other night, me, Fan Man, and he said, sorry, thought it was a Monday night make out stream. Saturday night, we had a blast, Fan Man and Big Al and I. We were up, we started at what, 9:30? And no, 8:30 maybe. We were still hanging out like close to 5 a.m. Just watching movies on stream together and chatting and everything. It was a blast, but good to see you there. No, I was talking about what I'm reading or watching right now. Still am finishing up Floating Dragon by Peter Straub. It's a great, great book. So far anyway. I'm about 200 pages into it now. I tend to be a slow reader when it comes to, hardcovers or hard copy of something that I'm reading, because I just don't have the time to sit down and focus in the quiet. Like those moments are few and far between for me, but this book, I'm just wishing that I could, just sit down and take a whole day and finish it, because it's really engaging me. I can't yet recommend it because I haven't reached the end. But it's one of the things I hate about novels, contemporary novels do this as well, but especially novels from the 80s, and Peter Straub and Stephen King's heyday, eras and stuff like that, will do this thing, which I think it's so dumb. They can't just tell a novel about a character and follow that character's progression. If they're telling a novel, telling a story, they got to start with this character over here and give you this little mini story about this character. Then they jump over here and give you this little mini story about this character. Then they jump over here and they give you this little mini. Now, that's not a bad structure in itself if you do it well. And Peter Straub is really impressing me because he does it quite well. But so many other writers just can't handle that. It's like it's like the writers themselves don't have the attention span just to follow a plot. They have to take a little break and then jump over here, and they'll create like totally new characters and give you their backstory and all this and that, just so they, if you look at the main plot of the story, A happens so that B can happen, and B needs to happen so that C can happen, and C needs to happen so that, D can happen. Like, that's the main plot of the story. Well, instead of just telling you what happens from A to D, they need to jump over to this other, create the security guard in the museum when B happened. They'll give you his backstory and tell you about his life and how he got that job and what he was doing the night on the shift that night when, the B happened at the museum and all of this stuff. And then he dies because that's the point of B happening. And you're like, well, why should I give a crap about that guy? You're not showing me you're such a great writer because, oh, look how well I've imagined out this universe. No, you showed me that you can't even keep focused on the stinking plot. It drives me crazy when writers do that. It's one thing if you now see what Peter Straub is doing. It's, this was in a lot of ways, I think this was the inspiration for It. At least Stephen King definitely drew a lot from it. And I do like It, although I think Stephen King is epically known for putting too much into his stories and doing that a lot, jumping over, here's a little story about somebody that we'll never see again, But Peter Straub is telling the story of a community, and he's got stories of these certain characters, and it takes a while for you to really start piecing things together, but it's keeping my interest. It's really good, and I trust him at this point in the novel to know that he's not going to jump over here and tell the event on this part of the plot from the perspective of the random person that was working in the gas station at the time that I don't care about and I'll never see again, So I appreciate that he's not doing that. But it's good Halloween read too. It's a good October read. So I'm having fun with that. Film wise, or TV wise or whatever, I'm still trying to get through the Sleepy Hollow series that started in 2013. I think it ran for 4 seasons. I'm on like season 3-ish right now. That was the time where Hollywood started going to crap, right? So it started out really cool. I loved that first season. I thought it was wonderful. Season 2 is still good. You've got the character of Ichabod Crane. Tom Missen's portrayal of Ichabod Crane just carries the whole show. It's wonderful. But you see a little bit of not wokeness in season 2, but just like there's too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to producers, and we don't really know where we're going ultimately. So they threw too many things in the mix, and they developed some things too fast that should have been taken more time with. You can see a little bit in that. Season 3 now, they shifted the series a little bit, and you can maybe see some little bit of nonsense coming in. I don't know. I have to watch the whole thing because it's part of my, I have kind of a little side scholarship going with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I love Washington Irving. I love that story. I love the effect that he's had on our culture. And I've taught that story before in my American Ghost Stories class. And we've looked at different iterations of that. And the one thing I've never watched is the Sleepy Hollow series. So I'm just finally making myself watch that, to get through it. But that's what I'm watching. So reading, watching, what I've been listening to, and this is when I'll stop, what I'm watching and listening to right now. I have been, you guys know how I feel about Alice Cooper. I've been such a huge super fan of him ever since 1989. How was it, 9 years old maybe, and watching the video for Poison that came out, which just jump started me into puberty. But I also thought Alice Cooper was just so freaking cool. And, of course, eventually got into his backlog of stuff, but he was just one of my favorite, artists, all through high school and everything. And I've followed each of his albums since then. I love it. The man's in his 70s and he's still consistently putting out quality work. I can't say that about anybody else except Sammy Hagar, of course, Sammy Hagar and the Circle. I'd be hard pressed to think of other individuals who are putting out the same quality content now that they did back then. Not even the same, but in a lot of ways progressing and getting even, better, or continuing their ever evolving journey as an artist. Alice Cooper just released a little while ago The Road. It's his latest CD. It's so good. It is so good. Detroit Stories was his last one, which kind of came out during the pandemic. And, of course, he's in Hollywood Vampires now as well with Johnny Depp and Joe Perry and so forth. And so he's got a lot on his plate. A couple things about this album I'll just tell you about. Alice Cooper's so awesome. He's just so freaking awesome. He's one of those people. He's one of those artists that I've never heard anybody be able to say anything bad about him. I mean, like about his character, his personality, maybe people don't care for his music or whatever, or his showmanship or whatever. But I've never heard anybody be able to say a cross thing about Alice Cooper. He's kind of like Michael Anthony in that way. He's one of those people that's just like one of the good guys, in the entertainment industry. And you notice with a lot of hard covers or hard copy CDs today, everybody's downloading their music. So if an artist puts out a new CD, maybe they're relying on their older fans who are just CD collectors who are going to buy it. But a lot of them will, looks like I got the focus off a little bit on the camera here. See if that takes effect here. A lot of them, though, will try to give a little something extra with their CDs. And that's what Alice Cooper's done here with The Road. You see that it's got a CD, but also a live at Hellfest concert that they did, which is really sweet. That's a really sweet performance there too. And the nice box, covering, you've got let me get the booklet out, nice booklet. It's, far from gone are the days where you just have to, throw a CD in a jewel case and throw a little cover on and call it a product. You really have to go over that if you want people to buy a hardcover, for the most part, unless you're, diehard fans like myself. But it's solid, amazing, touring band. This was Anita Strauss was still, touring with them and everything. And Chuck Palahniuk on bass, just a kick butt band. And the whole concept, the theme behind this album, The Road, is life on the road as a musician, So it's still Alice Cooper. And when Alice Cooper does an album, sometimes it'll be, he always does theme albums, for the most part anyway. But sometimes they'll be more of telling a story. Sometimes they'll just be more thematic. And sometimes occasionally, like with Eyes of Alice Cooper or whatever, he'll just be trying to do a good rock album. With Paranormal, he was trying to do more of like a Twilight Zone style of just separate stories. It didn't necessarily have to all fit the same story banner or whatever. But The Road is about life on the road as an artist. And it's about the mythology of the road too, as a touring artist. You've got such great songs. I mean, the first one, I'm Alice, is kind of his own personal stamp on that. What he does is playing the character of Alice. He's got such Welcome to the Show. Rules of the Road is another great one. The Dead Don't Dance. It's got his sort of token. He always sort of has a token love song on each album, which a lot of times is sort of the low point of an album. It's like, oh great, here comes the rockers doing their ballad, their token ballad. Not him. He's always been able to write, ever since Only Women Bleed or You and Me or It's Me, all those, he's always been able to write some kind of touching ballads. But his ballad here is about leaving on the road, leaving your loved one, leaving your spouse or wife or girlfriend or whatever that you want to stay with and stuff. So it's so, as a writer, it's one of the things I've always loved about Alice Cooper is he is a good storyteller, and he can tell stories through his songs and through his albums. He knows the importance of thematic cohesion and integrity of plot and storylines and whatnot. So, from a musical perspective, he's not a prose writer, but it's the same, principles apply. So really can't recommend this album enough. The Road, it's great. It's awesome. Everything by Alice Cooper's awesome, though. Can't go wrong with that. But that's really all the stuff that I'm watching, reading, and listening to right now, in terms of, the most recent stuff that I'm watching, reading, and listening to. Let me see. I think I missed a super chat. Was it Studio Super? Said, I'm still obsessed with the Bond films. Just so impressed with the character's cultural reach. It even goes beyond its genre. The Incredibles took big inspiration from their... Yeah, you're right. The Incredibles took big inspiration from On Her Majesty's Great Service. Now, I haven't seen all the Bond films, but you're right. That spy film... I mean, the Bond films really started the whole genre, right? Of the spy film and the spy shows. The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The guy from Man from Uncle just passed away the other day, which was sad. But I mean, from all that, from even to Get Smart, Mission Impossible, all of that. Ghost Planet, I saw you say that you bought a Disney plush toy of Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad. It kind of makes me jealous. If it's a decent designed Ichabod Crane, I kind of want to get one of those myself because I am kind of obsessed with Sleepy Hollow. It's one of the, every now and then I'll get a story, classic book or whatever that I'm really into, and I'll try and take a deep dive into it, and I've been doing that with Sleepy Hollow for a while since I taught it in my class, but I'm trying to do that with Dracula now too. I was talking to Fan Man the other day about maybe getting him as a guest on some of my maybe an educational podcast, literary study podcast or something, done through YouTube or something else, whatever. But really going into the effect Dracula's had on culture. Yes, the first book, sure, and that's where I would really bring him in because he's taught that before and he's big on that. But looking at the iterations through culture and how it's affected culture, I am fascinated by that. A writer who can write a story, and sometimes it's a writer who's like it's their one work that really got out there, and they might have written other things. Maybe they only wrote one thing, but they wrote a book or a work or a character, and it just so seeped into the fabric of culture. I think that what a feeling that must be to know that you contributed to an archetypical foundation of culture, by your story or by your character or whatever. Yeah, Mr. D-Man, Alice Cooper still has his integrity. He didn't pull a Gene Simmons, a Dee Snider, or a Roger Waters. Or I don't know what you mean by Gene Simmons, Dee Snider, or Roger Waters in terms of what they pulled. I do know Gene Simmons, no, it was Paul Stanley and Dee Snider also spoke out about some of the nonsense gender ideology, which, got them, we got to cancel them on Twitter because Alice Cooper spoke out about that. And it's adorable that people thought they could cancel Alice Cooper. Like, no. He's got a fan base that doesn't take your crap, you little Gen Zers, Leah plus size, good to see you there. So classic vampire stories are my favorite. Looking back at The Lost Boys, Fright Night, and Salem's Lot. Hey, those are 3 awesome vampire stories you got there too. Those movies were great. Yeah. Every time I think about Joel Schumacher and Batman and Robin, I just remember, you know what? The man also gave us Lost Boys. So let's calm down. He gave us some great stuff too. Salem's Lot. I've never watched the remake, but the classic, which I have on DVD, is wonderful. The book's good. I love that classic TV miniseries they did of it. I think they did a remake of it that I've never watched. I might give it a chance at some point, but I can't imagine it being better than the first one. Divinital Kayan said, also listen to audiobook of Sleepy Hollow, and it's good. I recommend it. It's only 1.5 hour, so easy listen in the evenings. Wow, because Legend of Sleepy Hollow, so it must be is it a novelization of the short story? Because the original short story, I can't imagine it would take 1.5 hours to read, but maybe. I mean, maybe if you got a slower reader. Because Legend of Sleepy Hollow came out as a short story in the sketchbook of Jeffrey Crayon Gent. It was a bunch of little short stories and essays that Washington Irving published, and that was the one that really became most popular from it. But if you got another iteration of it or something that you've been reading, I'd love to hear about that. It's cool. Andre Hernandez says, will there be a Halloween stream? I think so. Sound Engraver and I have been talking about, of course, we're also kind of like, do we want to spend a lot of money on costumes right now? Can we even spend money on costumes right now trying to pay for this wedding? But at the very least, we'll come on and say hi and do something or another. So yeah, most likely, yes, definitely. A back credit card. They gave him a back. I know. So much wrong with that movie. The classic team movie is great. It's so please don't watch the remake. It's such crap. That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. Nathaniel Loswell says, I've been reading manga adaptations of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's interesting. After reading through both novel, I've been waiting for October to compare and contrast. That's a cool idea. That is a cool idea. I didn't know they did manga versions of that. I know there is a comic version of that I would like to get, like actual straight up adaptation, not just, the characters and other things. I should probably finish reading Tomb of Dracula, the comics that I picked up, when they reissued them in sort of omnibus volumes or whatever. Yeah, Santa Grace said Halloween falls on a Tuesday night. Yeah, so she'll be free, so it should be good. Yeah, and I won't have Alyssa this year because she'll be with her mother trick or treating. So yeah, do a Halloween stream. It'd be fun. Speaking of, actually not speaking of, I had a thought that is a great segue, but I didn't express that thought, so it doesn't make a great segue. I was thinking Halloween, eating Halloween candy, and then I thought, speaking of eating, I'm kind of hungry, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up here in a second. But Studio Super, thank you, sir. Said I showed my nephew last year, who was 4 years old, Frankenstein and Bride. Wow, he loved them. Wants to be Frank's friend. Also showed him the 2 Chris Reeves Superman movies and loved both. Awesome. Now a Soups fan. That's great. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, those original monster movies. I mean, they're not scary to kids these days because older and stuff like that. They were terrifying in their day, but also because they were about more than just fear. That's what I don't like about horror movies that are just out to scare you. I mean, say something, have a statement, tell a story. I hate it. I really can't stand horror films that their story is, hey, something bad is about to happen. So these people realize it and they're trying their best to stop this bad thing that's going to happen. And then they don't stop it. So the bad thing happens. Like, how is that a story? How is that remotely satisfying? I mean, you could maybe twist that if it really makes a statement about something or whatever, but I don't get. Horror is not an end of its in itself. You can evoke terror or horror if you're trying to do something with it, but so many stories, and it's not just with horror, it's with other genres today. They just want to achieve X, and then X becomes a genre, and then it's just empty, it's flat. Yeah, Samuel Proctor, and listen to the original Dracula. It's amazing book. It's so good. Yeah, it's great. And there's a wonderful, if you're into Audible versions, there's a great version on Audible that I got Fan Man into, actually. It's Alan Cummings and Tim Curry. It's got a full cast, because Dracula's a novel of there's a word for it that I'm blanking on right now, but it's a novel of letters of different entries. So some of it's news stories, some of it's people's journal entries, some of it's people, speaking into their recorders or whatever. And it's pieced together like that. So it's really got all these different cast members, included. And they did a good job with an Audible version of that. All right, folks. Well, I am going to go get some food, I think. I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Nathaniel Losbell says they were done under a company called Manga Classics. Okay, they specialize in adapting classic works of literature. I'll look that up. That's interesting to know. I'll look that up. Vintage Al-Qaeda said, hey, did you ever check out Over the Garden Wall from the last year or so? No pressure. I'm just curious. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. But now that you mention it, I remember people, not just you, a lot of people telling me that it's supposed to be so good. I'm looking it up. I'm opening a tab right now to kind of remind me rather. Now, just looking at it, not overly crazy of the character design, the art style, but that doesn't mean that it's horrible. I know, because I really like Gravity Falls, and Gravity Falls was a little bit like that too. But I like the Halloween aspect of it. Yeah, it looks like maybe a good October watch. I'll give it a shot. If I remember to, I'll give it a shot. But thanks for reminding me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Leia Plus Size. Yeah. Samuel Proctor said, I think you just ousted my short story. I just finished the first draft of it. It's a horror that has something bad happen to the main character at the end. And that's fine if it does. Like I'm saying, it's not that horror needs to have happy endings. My goodness, no. But is there a statement being made? Does it mean something? Or is it just horror for horror's sake? I mean, Bride of Frankenstein, the movie, ends pretty horrifically. But there's some good, that comes from it. And it also makes a statement about what you've just seen, I don't want to say too much about that because Sound Engraver hasn't watched it with me yet. But Studio Super said, I also read the Frankenstein's book by Mary Shelley. Big difference. Have you ever checked out the Marvel anime where it incorporates both the book and film? It's on YouTube. No, I haven't. That's a Marvel anime that incorporates both the book and film. That's interesting. I'll do some research on that. Thank you, Darkside. We are very excited about the wedding. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. It's about the hour mark, so it's about time for me to call it a night. But appreciate you guys hanging out, even with no real, attention getting algorithm grabbing title to the stream. We still have like 35 in here. So great to see people, and appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll be back this Saturday night for our usual live stream. And then the week after, it'll probably be Monday night again. But good to see you guys here. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.